Welcome to week one, creating the ultimate sales team. We're going to be going through the agenda for this, as well as for the PowerPoint that's on the screen. Open Q&A will happen at the end. So if you have any questions and answers, please do that or send them in the Slack channel for everybody. All right, so today's agenda, we're going to go over the overview. First step in creating the foundation for your sales team is defining who your ideal customer profile is. We call that the ICP. Then we're going to want to go deep on what they want, right? So talk a little bit about what they want, how we're different than the competition when our salespeople are approaching them. And then we're going to figure out where they hang out. So we can kind of create lists. Today, if you don't have a sales team, this is a blank canvas. This is you creating all of the foundational work that you need for your sales team. And so over the next, 6 to 12 months together, we're going to be creating this canvas so you could focus on building everything you need to build out. So when you have a sales team, they're hitting the ground running. They have all the tools and techniques that they need so that they could figure out how to get to the job done and how to get money into the coffers of the business as fast and furious as possible. So it's up to you to decide, right, how much effort you want to put into it. We're here to help. We're here to guide you. We're here to control you. But you have to do the work. That's part of this program. So that's what's the fun part of it. All right. So what we want to accomplish today, we want to clearly define who do we want to serve. Many times when we deal with accounts or we work with people, they'll say, everybody's my customer. Well, if everybody's your customer, then nobody's your customer. And it makes it very difficult for your sales team to be able to focus on who they need to go after, how to create talk tracks for those people, how to ask really good discovery questions. So for the purpose of today's workshop, and this cohort, we're going to be defining who you work with. And you could have 3 or 4 different ones, but we're going to pick one and go deep with it. And then your homework will be to focus on the other ones. So first and foremost, we're going to say, who do we serve? And then we're going to focus on how do we serve them differently than everybody else. So what makes us different, right? What's our differentiation? What's our unique selling proposition for them? And then we're going to focus on where do we find them? So who do we serve? How do we serve them differently? How do we communicate that to them? And then where do we find them? So we're going to start out with the basics. Who's your ideal customer profile? So an ideal customer profile is a description of the type of company and specifically client that you will gain the most benefit from your products or services. And most importantly, the ones that bring you the most profit and joy, right? So what audiences do you want to focus on? So who is your ideal customer profile? So Christopher, we got you today. We're going to take about 5 seconds and just have you jot down 3 to 4 different industries and companies and client types that you want to work with. And then we could kind of go deep on some of those, if that makes sense too. So just spend about 5 minutes just brainstorming the ideal customer profile, right? So the companies, the client types, as well as the specific clients. So if you're going to work with public relations officers, are they PR companies or are they PR companies inside companies like healthcare or associations or things of that nature? So you should have 4 to 5 different product categories and companies that you want to work with, but we're going to go deep on one, and then your homework will be going deep on the other ones. So just spend 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, just brainstorming a bunch of different ideal customer profiles that working with them will bring you the most profit and joy. Then next, now that we have those, and just give me a couple of them just so we know, so we could kind of be deep on one of them, if that makes sense for us.
Yeah, so we can either go healthcare as a whole or healthcare PR agencies.
Okay. And if you think about it, we want to tighten that up. So healthcare as a whole is great, but for some of healthcare, it's like a hospital is going to have a PR person, right?
Yep.
But a physician's office or a plastic surgeon probably won't. So for them, it'll be an office manager, is my guess, right? Or the physician itself. If it's a larger physician group, then they will have a maybe a PR person or a PR firm that they work with.
Correct. Yep.
Right. And so that goes to this next level is what are their titles, right? So we want to be as specific with the ideal customer profile as possible so that our sales team, when they're building their lists, they don't go off on tangents, right? So is it a PR? Is it a PR VP? Is it a PR director? Or is it a PR coordinator, right? Public relations coordinator or a marketing and communications coordinator, right? PR unfortunately gets hidden in a lot of places. They may be called communications especially in the healthcare arena, it might be communications or public relations. The bigger organizations will have a PR department, a communications department, or a marketing communications department. And so from here, we're saying is what's their titles, right? And then what departments do they work in? That's why it's critical to know, okay, they work in this department, this department, this department. Because when we're building our lists, we want to be as concrete as possible, as specific as possible, so we don't get junk or data in the data. Big question for you to answer. You don't have to do it on this, but why do you want to serve them? And then what value do you bring to them that no one else does? So I understand, these are great. They're profitable. They're good clients, right? So that could be one of the reasons why you want to serve them. And then what value do you bring? We're going to work on that in a little bit when we start talking about our differentiation. So when we're making our positioning statements and our elevator statements, what value do you bring to them that no one else does?
Perfect.
Then we want to choose. This is the most important question that I always have for everybody. And it's really when building your unique selling proposition or your elevator speech, right? Or your positioning statement. It's called a number of different things. Why should hospital public relations executives, we're going to use that high level, choose you versus any and all of your competitors, including doing nothing at all? Right. And so for you, because it's project work, doing nothing at all may not be an answer, but there may be competitors. So why should they choose you versus choosing a competitor or doing nothing at all? And so let's take 30 seconds to kind of brainstorm what makes you different, besides the fact that you're wonderful and your mom loves you and you're a good looking guy. I'll take those easy three, but why should they use you versus nobody else? So just brainstorm that for 30 seconds to a minute. Got it?
Got it all.
All right. So give me a couple, just because we might have to go deep on that. So give me a couple that you've got written down as why should they work with you?
So one of the selling points that people have told me is our storytelling experience. Love that. The way that we coordinate the turnarounds of every step of the process. So we have quick turnarounds. The end project could be a certain time frame, but there's little intricacies that go along the way. So we're quick at getting back to people.
Okay.
And then lastly, with having 10 years of experience, we have the highest end gear. We know how to use the gear to be the most efficient with it, to make the time go as fast as possible on a shoot day. Doctors don't have a lot of time on their hands. We try to make it as efficient as possible. They show up, they do their thing, and get out.
So that last part was excellent. What you just did is where we want to go with some of these, right? Especially because when you're writing these USPs or you're writing your points of differentiation, especially you're going to tie it in when we go through this, you're going to see we have the highest end gear to make this as fast and furious as possible, because we know working with physicians, they don't have a lot of time. And the last thing a physician wants to do is be sitting in the corner of the room while we're adjusting lighting, while we're adjusting the camera, anything of that nature. Because what happens if you do that is the physician will leave, right? Because they time is money for them and they need to take care of their patients. So take all of those. We're going to jump ahead, but we'll do it now because I want to keep this rhythm. Take all of those and connect that in the language of you giving me some features, right? So what are the benefits of those? What's the benefit? And then I want you to go the benefit of the benefit. right? So we've got the fastest gear, that's a feature, the most up-to-date gear, that's a feature. So it goes fast, right? So the physician, so we don't take time diddly-daddling while a physician is in the room. So go one step further. So you look great in front of the physician when they realize that you're not wasting their time or something of that nature.
Yep. So you want me to come up with the benefit of the benefit?
Yeah, come up with the benefit. So some of them you gave me as features. So
Sure.
I think you gave me 3 of them.
Yeah,
Am I
features,
correct?
storytelling experience, and
Right.
quick turnarounds were the
Okay.
other 2 features.
So then fastest equipment. So go to the benefit of those 2 and then go to the benefit of the benefit.
You want me to give you the first one?
Yeah, we can do one.
So the first feature is the storytelling experience.
Okay.
And so the benefit of having storytelling experience is to get their story in the best light possible, which would then allow their clients and patients to be able to see them in their best perspective.
Okay. Probably want to tighten that up a little bit. And I realize you're going cold. This is the first time you've ever done that. Right. So we're going to go through this and then just think about that. And your homework is going to be tighten up the benefit and tighten up the benefit of the benefit. Right. And the benefit of the benefit I liked how you tied it to the final person, but it may also think of the benefit, and it can be multiple benefits of the benefit, but you're going to go through this and see everybody looks through the lens of themselves, and it doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them who they are. It makes us humans, right? And so we want to always say, how do we do this? And what's the lens that they're thinking of? Their income is the patient, right? In healthcare, it's always about the patient and it's mission driven. So that's great. But your PR person also has some needs, right? And so I want you to think about that. And maybe it's not subtle or overt, and maybe it's more subconscious. So
you want to make them look good, is what you're saying.
Right. Beat me to the punchline. There you go. I love it when the student is smarter than me. So it's building a portfolio of cutting edge work. 2 is never embarrassing you in front of your boss, your executive team, and your medical staff. 3 is, creating a project that has legacy. And some of these I'm guessing, but the first 2 I know for a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be your homework, to work on that. So now we know, kind of who they are, but I also want you to think a little deeper on them, and everybody will have a copy of this PowerPoint. So what are their titles, which we kind of did a little bit when we were thinking about, but you're going to have 3 or 4 different ICPs, right? Ideal customer profiles. So I want you to get into this. I want you to think about if they're male or female, because we're going to use language when we're talking to them that may be male or female language, right? And if there's a split. Schools, are there schools that they go to, or education levels, right? And the reason why we want to look at that is when we're building our lists, if we know that they all went to Northwestern because it's got a great integrated marketing communications program in Chicago, well, then when we're looking on LinkedIn, we're going to look for connections that are in Medill School of Journalism. I happen to know that, right? But, so we're going to try to figure out what's going on. We're also going to see if they're big alumni, right? And so we want to watch that so we have the ability to bond with them when we're sending out messages. We want to know their titles, right? We talked about that. We want to know what groups they're part of, right? So what organizations, associations, groups are they part of as professionals, right? What causes are near and dear to them if they have causes that are like causes, and what's their normal career path. We want to know, is it associate to director to VP, or whatever. So think about these things. We want to go deep on what is it who they are. These are the things we want to, what do they care about, right? So it's doing a good job, right? So what are they trying to achieve personally, professionally, reputationally, and financially, right? So for some, it's financial, right? So if we're talking about a physician, they want more patients. They want more high paying patients. They want more out of pocket paying patients, perhaps, if we're talking about a plastic surgeon, right? Professionally, they want to look good in front of all of their peers. They want to have this piece of film that they could use more than once, right? So all the different things that we're trying to think about when we're putting together our ICP, what problems or challenges hold them back, right? So one of the problems and challenges that may hold somebody back that's a PR person is budget, right? So they could only do something with one camera and one crew versus 3 cameras and 3 crews. So we have to know that. What are the problems, financially that could hold them back? Could be budget, right? So they budgeted $10,000 for this, but they can only do it for 3. Can you do it for 3? So we want to think about that at all times for them. Why do they believe what they believe? If they do, what is their pain and what's their fear, right? So for some, especially corporate people, it's not just what do they gain, but what do they fear, right? And we always want to talk to that fear. Fear is a bigger motivator.
I was going to say, what is one of the benefits to focusing on fear for an ICP?
So one of the benefits is it's a bigger motivator, right? So it goes back to, here's the deal, Nick. If we get this job and we become your videographer group of choice, we're never going to make you look bad in front of your physicians and your medical staff. And here's how we do that. We have the best and fastest, most up-to-date equipment so that we are in a shoot, fast and furious, in and out, and we know how to stage it and how to get it. So your physician has limited downtime. So you never have to worry that we're going to be diddly-daddling around and the physician's going to get anxious and is going to look at you, but most importantly, he's going to go to your executive team. Now that's the pain, right? That is going to be better saying, hey, you're going to make your photo shoot look great. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
They've all been yelled at by a physician, or their vice president of communications has been yelled at by a physician, and that then trickles down, right? And so you're going to say, this is how we're going to do it, and this is why we're going to do that, and this is what we learned, and I've got your back. I want a provider that's got my back and knows the pain that I could possibly have, right? The pleasure's easy, right? And everybody's going to be promising the pleasure. We're going to make them look good. It's going to, people are going to cry. Your donors are going to open up their checkbooks. Phenomenal. But now we want to say that too, but we also want to go to the pain. Great question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to keep them at ease. That makes a lot of sense.
Keep them at ease. Keep them at ease. Pain's a bigger motivator.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins says that, they all do, so we want to talk about that. It's from Sandler, right? What's their pain? What's their fear? Why do you believe your customer is better off doing business with you? Right. And so this is what we're building. We have it all laid out, right? Because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. Here's the features that they could do. Here's the benefit, and here's the benefit of the benefit. So we just kind of walk through that with them. We want to know what their personal goals are, their professional goals. We talked about all of that. So we just want to make sure that we know that so we could speak to that in them. And then we also want to know who depends on them, right? Family, coworkers, friends, teams, other investors, right? So it's not just, for some, it's just themselves and their coworkers and their organization. But if you're talking to a business owner, he's got a lot more people that are dependent on them. Right? So now that we have that, I want you to name them. And what I mean by that is that you have these ICPs that you're going to name. You're going to name Sally, Public Relations Director, Nick, Plastic Surgeon, right? So I want you to give them a name because I want you to start humanizing them. We all know this, but I just want to repeat it. People are looking for the transformation, and that's what you're working towards. Nobody wants the drill bit. They all want the hole, right? They don't want weight loss. They want to fit into a smaller dress size. They want to fit into a smaller dress size because they have a wedding coming up. They want to fit into a smaller dress size because they have a high school reunion, their 30th high school reunion. or they have a vacation and they want that dress to fit, right? Or that shirt to fit, or the suit to fit. It's not just male or female, right?
Mhm.
Nobody wants marketing. They want more customers. Nobody wants more customers. They want more profitable customers that are very inexpensive to acquire. Nobody wants fitness, right? They want to live forever. They want longevity. They want stress reduction. They want the mental health aspect that fitness happens. Nobody wants just a relationship. They want lifelong companionship, right? So we always want to talk to them about the transformation that they're going to get. And what sets us apart than any other person selling, what sets our salespeople up versus any other people that are selling, is salespeople are just spewing features, 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 features. Or if they're good, maybe features and benefits. What we're doing is features and benefits and transformation.
Mhm.
Who's going to get the call? We will, right? Our job is to educate them on what that transformation looks like. And obviously, I'm stressing it always has to be done at a profit. All right. So now we know who we want to target. Now we're going to focus on our messaging. We've done some of that because I've kind of skipped forward because you guys are all bright students, but I want to get into that a little bit. Okay. So I want you to answer these questions. You don't have to do it now, but when do homework, we provide. So what is it that you provide? What services do you provide? 4, so they can, unlike our product. So let's go through these one by one. We provide all the different products and services that you provide. And you want to build these out so your salespeople know all the different products and services they provide, right? And so you, in essence, want to build, you're building your sales playbook now for them. So all of your different ICPs, and it may be a matrix.
When creating these ICPs, you said the person's name, the person's title, where they work, is their school, or were those items that we talked about earlier in the slides? Was that the specifics?
Yep. I want you to be as specific. Some of it's going to be general, right? If they, if they go to school, it may not be what colleges they went to, unless there's some colleges that really ring a bell. But it is, are they most likely going to be college educated?
Agreed. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And if not, right, so we know that if they're blue collar, nothing wrong with that. We're great people, but they may have a chip on their shoulder, right? And so we just need to know that when we're doing our education, right? So then, so they can, what are the key products and key benefits and benefits of the benefits? Unlike, so how are your competitors and your alternatives? So competitors are easy. Alternatives is something like the college kid with a camera, right? Or the intern that we just make them film on their phone, right? And so what are the various alternatives? I want you to be aware of it. So when you're training the salespeople, they know what the alternatives are too. Competitors are easy, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
All right. All the differentiations, right? So, well, everything that makes us different that your product delivers, and we talked about that, right? So if you put it together, that, I went through it slow, but you'll get a copy of it. This is an example for my company. We help time-strapped founders who are previously stressed from managing, recruiting, leading, and coaching their sales teams every day. With Sales Performance Team, they are freed up to focus on the strategic and bigger issues of their firms versus the day-to-day grind of managing a sales team, right? So you want the salespeople to be able to articulate it. I'm a founder. Okay, I am time-strapped, right? So that's getting deep, right? They're stressed. There isn't a business owner in the world that isn't stressed except for you, right? They're managing. What are they doing, right? Now, who are you and how do you free that up? We helped time-strapped public relation departments or public relation professionals in hospitals deal with the day-to-day grind of filming their medical staff, right? So we're going to piece it together, but it's going to be able to flow. So it's a really good elevator speech. So when your salespeople are on the phone, they are all saying the same thing. They're not going off script. They'll make it their own. They're going to adjust it, right? Which they feel comfortable with, which I am truly fine with. But I really want them to have the basis, right? So a good script allows them to become experts, and then they could go off script. So it's got to be unique, right? So I don't want it to be corporate speak. I want it to be yourself, right? It's all about a human to human connection, right? So if we're on the phone or we're sending an email or we're sending a video or we're leaving a voicemail, it's got to be a human to human connection. I want them to see a better future because of working with you, right? And it should describe how you help your prospect. So most elevator speeches and positioning statements are corporatese, and we are the best, all babies should eat, use us, right? This should be ideal customer profile, the stress that they're under, how you help them, how you eliminate the pain, and how you give them pleasure, right? So we could recap kind of doing this. We defined our ICPs, so we want to define all of them. We want to know their pain and why they use us. We want them named. And then we want to create a compelling message, value statements, right? And the first time we go through them, they're not going to be perfect, right? We just want to make them good, and then we'll wordsmith them, right?
Would you maybe recommend, because if people have worked with their ideal client before, maybe having a phone call or interviewing that person they've already worked with to find out why they decided to work with them and why they continue to work with them?
I think that's a phenomenal idea, right? I think it's going to give you nuggets, and you may assume X, but it may be Y, right? And so it may be, oh, they loved us because we are the best people in the world. But you may say, no, the reason I went with you guys is because the fact that, you fit our dates, you fit our budget, right? And you could get in and out fast. Okay. Right. So I think that's a great idea. And if you have more than one, you want to see if there's a theme. And that's the best way to do that. All right. Perfect. Now we got them. We know who they are. We know how to communicate with them to the best part that we possibly can. We're going to build those talk tracks all the time, right? So we're constantly refining talk tracks of communicating with people. We're constantly refining scripts. Now we want to get that list, right? And so here's the quickest way to fail. And listen, I took over a company, and I thought their sales department, and I thought their database was golden. I thought it was key. It was clean. It was horrible. It needed to be cleaned. The information was all wrong. They thought they had 12,000 people in the database. By the time we get done with it, it was down to 3,000 people, right? So, there's a lot of junk, and I've just learned this. So you got to make sure you're not using outdated public data. So if you have a database that you've purchased, you just want to clean it up, right? And we'll teach you how to do that. You got to really talk about the right mindset and prospecting skills, which we're going to talk about in future, right? Not positioning themselves as experts. So knowing everything you can about your ICP starts positioning you as an expert versus a product pusher, right? Define scripts, which we're starting to write by having the talk tracks, and not getting coached to success or making them practice. All right. So for B2B, which everybody is selling, LinkedIn is a great place to start, right? So you want your salespeople to be massive LinkedIn users, right? Associations. So for you, Christopher, we talked about public relations are one of your ideal customer profiles, your ICPs. So what's the associations that they belong to? But most importantly, go deeper, it's the healthcare association, right? And so then we want to say, can we get this list? Can we buy this list? Or at the very least, if we looked on LinkedIn, can we see that they're members of this? And do they have an event that we could maybe, if it's cost effective, have a booth at, right? And so now I'm shooting fish at the barrel because there is great. So, and it used to be the Society for Healthcare Marketing and Communications Executives, right? So it was like Sharma or something. It may still be. right? So, but there's an Illinois chapter and there's a national chapter. And they always give, like, you want to be at the reward ceremony because that's when everybody comes, right? And it's just networking. So you want to look for associations and trade shows. You may have to buy some cold lists, right? So I'm going to give different data sources to buy those cold lists. Networking event, we talk to them, but networking events to the ICP, not just general networking events, right? Trade shows, we talked about the importance of that. Their manuals, if they sell the manuals or they sell the DVD, because in there, they're going to be listing everybody. So we want to get those, the manuals or their guides or things of that nature. So how do we build the list, right? So sometimes you could do interns to build it. There's list scraping software. There's programs like Lead Gorilla or that will strip your things, and it's Lead Gorilla is $39 a month, right? So it's very inexpensive and it scrapes Google for you, right? There's other programs. And then associations list, if you join the association, and you could usually join as a, like a smaller user, you get access to their list. And sometimes it's on their website. So then you just need to pay an intern or a VA, right, from the Philippines, just to scrape it. You have great business because you probably get interns all the time. So you get somebody from the College of DuPage to do this. It's, it's very inexpensive.
And just to be clear on the events side of things, you mentioned earlier on that in the PowerPoint that we won't be attending events. And I just want to have clarity around, you will be attending events, but you'll have targeted people to talk to. You won't be joining these groups going every week, just kind of doing a spiel to the same people every day.
100%. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. So, a lot of times salespeople go to the general, like the Chamber of Commerce networking event. Well,
right.
That's okay to try, but is my ideal, everything goes through the filter, is my ideal customer profile there, right?
Right.
And how do I get to them? Right. And so I'm going to the networking events, or if there's if they have a show, right, I'm there, or I'm just going to the networking component of the show. So I'm there for the cocktail hour. I'm there for that. But it's got to be where my ideal customer profile is, not just going to the same old with people that can't buy my service, because that just ends up burnout.
Yeah.
Okay. So LinkedIn Navigator, right? Seamless AI is another one that's a good aggregator. Nimbler is one. This is $39. I haven't played with it yet. I just saw it. It's $39, and in essence, it scrapes LinkedIn, and $39 is a lifetime user of that. So, even if I only get 1 year out of it, it's very good. Google Places, if you're selling B2B, right? Discover.org is a great source of lists. Lead IQ is a great source of lists, and Hunter.io is just for emails, but it's another great source of lists. So these are all sources of lists or software that you could use.
And just to be clear, these are cold call emailing lists where you would email or call these people.
Yep. And if I get their cell phone, then I can reach out to them too. So I get SMS text them. Right. Perfect. But we want to start with a call. We want to have a call is just to have a good conversation, or do an introductory email, or if budget is part of it. And like one client, we're going to explore using direct mail first, follow up on a call to the direct mail, right? So LinkedIn Navigator, Seamless AI, this is scraping LinkedIn, right? It's LinkedIn Navigator. So then you could call them. You could use directories. Once you get them, it's easy. If they're a public company, like, it's easy to get to hospitals, right? But it's more difficult to get to office managers and physician practices because everybody wants a piece of them, right? So these are all databases for that. Other tricks is I have a targeted count of my top 100 customers. I set Google alerts for all of them. So if I know I want to work with Northwestern Hospital, I've now set a Google alert for Northwestern Hospital, right? I set LinkedIn alerts to see if anybody in these targeted accounts gets promoted or changed, right? If they're changed and they're my client, I want to know about that so I don't get blindsided by a new customer coming in. But if they get promoted, one is I want to reach out to them, say congratulations, but also make sure that then I'm solidified. So I always set up Google alerts on my clients, and I always send Google alerts on my top prospects, as well as LinkedIn alerts. Yours is going to be tricky because of hospitals. There's so much stuff that they produce that you get a lot of garbage, right? So you may want to define your Google alert, so you're not getting 30,000 press releases every day, or just set up a secondary email that you check, very quickly every day.
And Google has a particular website for those alerts, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Same thing with LinkedIn, right? You could do it on LinkedIn or LinkedIn Navigator. You just want to set up alerts. This is another one. So now when I get a specific account in my ICP, I want to go after all their competitors, right? If I'm not Biden by a non-compete where they only want me working with them, I'm just going to name drop them. Nick, love the work you're doing at Rush Hospital. We do a lot of work with Northwestern and University of Chicago. Love to be able to talk to you about a lot of the great work we're doing there and how we make them look good in front of their physician groups, as well as their executive team and their board of directors and foundation. So now I've name dropped them so I could get to them. And then Facebook searches, if it makes sense, right? If this is something you want to go deep on, do some Facebook searches on them, right? So the key is to use all of it, because the best use everything, right? So the best are constantly filling the list. So that way you have a really, really good list for your salespeople to go at. Because if we don't provide them the ideal customer profile, and we don't provide them with a really good talk tracks and communication and scripts, and we don't provide them with really good list sources, we're setting them up for failure, right? And it's not their fault, it's our fault, right? And so that's the first thing that we do, and the most important thing that we focus on. So if we don't know where we're going, any road's going to get us there. And I don't want to be random. What burns salespeople out is not selling, it's prospecting.
Right.
It's what burns them out. I've been doing this far too long to not know that. And so what I want to do is make it as foolproof and as easy as possible so they can get traction when they start prospecting. So that is it. What questions might we have? Is there any questions, or did we cover everything?
So you mentioned in the Google, I think that there's not a lot of people who are familiar with how to set up those Google alerts. Do you know what the exact website is? I know I've done it in the past for myself as well, for Video Production Chicago and different things popping up. It'd send, I think, an alert to my email saying when certain keywords were used in Google that matched my search.
So this is just how to set up a Google alert. Go to Google Alerts, right? And so you can see these are some alerts that I have set up for this, right? So you just create an alert. So you may want, so you want to get defined, right? So Northwestern Medical Group Foundation, right? Or Northwestern Medical Group, or let's say you want to look at by you, spelling is important. Rush Copley Medical Center, right? And so, then I just created an alert, but you want to get as defined as possible. And here you can see, okay, Heart and Vascular Center, Rush Copley, so you just want to look at different, and maybe it's news, right? Maybe it's announcements that we look at.
So for something like this, maybe it's an event that they're having that might be beneficial for you to check out, or someone they hired a new PR firm that you want to reach out to, looking for those key indicators of where I can take action. Is that what we're looking for here?
100%. What other questions might you have?
I think it's just important for anyone who's watching this to understand that a lot of the tools that you had mentioned for the list creation is just different trialing and errors. So what might work for one company or one business might not work for another. So you really have to trial and error these different sources and you said you pay a one-time fee for the one, and it might work, it might not, but you have to try all of them until you figure out what is the one that works and keep doing that.
Yeah, I think, so like if I gun to my head and I only had a little bit to spend, right? And I want to set a salesperson up for success. First, I'm going to say, what ICP, right? What's the ICP that they're doing? And then I'm going to say, okay, what's the easiest way for me to get to them? Get that stripped and put that in an inexpensive CRM, right? I don't want them to use an Excel spreadsheet. I want them using a real expensive CRM like a Pipedrive. And we'll go into technology. So for sure, they should be on LinkedIn. That's for free, right?
Right.
I might have to get them LinkedIn Navigator, right? And so now I'm going to use LinkedIn Navigator for the whole office, right? So maybe 2 or 3 people could use LinkedIn Navigator. That's for sure. There are inexpensive lists to get, but unfortunately you get what you pay for. So I like creating my lists myself. Listen, I bought a list from a data source that's a pretty good data source, 30,000 for one client. 50% of it was waste, but we know it's waste, right? Because people change jobs, they know that. So I agree with you. It's trial and error. And I'm always going to drop, here's things that I just found, or here are some inexpensive ways to do that. Like the one $39, and it's, with AI, I just did a post about this. There's like 7 different options. I haven't tested them. So I'm always going to say I haven't tested these yet, but these are like really, really inexpensive. Like nobody needs Zoom info. A small business, it's $10,000. But if I had 7 salespeople, well, now I'm $1,000 a salesperson for a list that they have the most up-to-date information possible. Okay, over the course of a year, if they're going to stick around, then it's worth it, right? And so you just make the economics work. For you, it's easy. And we could strip to Google. We could go to the websites of every hospital in Chicago. We could pay the Philippines for $7 an hour, and overnight and for $50, I'm gonna have every person possible. They'll go into LinkedIn. I do this all the time for clients. They go into LinkedIn, they get me their LinkedIn profile, so I have that. They'll give me their email and their contact information. Their email may be a personal email, so now I'm gonna have to figure out what their work email is, and maybe I could get a cell phone. So now I'm golden because I've got everything I need. And I could start with 50 people, right? Or 100 people or 300 people and work that list, because I want to have a cadence of touching them. So it's not just calling them once, it's calling them 3 times over the course of 14 days, right? Or over the course of 10 days, sending them an email and filling my pipeline with them. So that's the most important thing. But the most important thing is knowing who we want to target and knowing what we're going to say and what's going to motivate them to lean into my message, or if I get them on the phone, to connect with them, because I only got one shot.
Right. And that was actually my next question, was that one shot you have. Yeah. Is your goal to sell them on that call, or is your goal to set up a demo with them? What is
set up a demo, right? Or even say, hey, listen, I know I caught you cold. Here's what, here's how we help other hospitals or other public relations executives or other PR firms. Love to be able to, if you don't have time now, put something on the calendar for us to go deeper, right? All I need is 30 minutes of your time.
So for people that don't have the know-it-all of the business backbone, I think it's important that their salespeople could still make these scripted calls, book these demos, and not even have to be the people doing the demos. It could be someone who knows the business a little bit better, actually doing the demo on the product, and not the actual salesperson. The salesperson could literally just be booking someone's calendar up with these demos.
Yeah, it's sales development rep, right? Or business development rep. I'm old enough to know to call them appointment setters, right? So just somebody to set appointments for you all day long, right? And then you're doing it and you spiff them on the appointment, right? So they get a commission on but for any small business owner, that's the most important thing I would do, is just start, rocking and rolling on an appointment setter to get you filled up. And I would tape those calls if possible, so that the salesperson could listen to them. And I just had this with a potential client. You intuitively know what to say. You also intuitively know what to say. If 3 minutes into the conversation, they say X, you know that you're going to get an objection, which is Y, right? So what you're going to say is B at 10 minutes in to take away that objection or let them know that you could handle that. Right.
Right.
And so they're going to say something you're intuitively going to know because you've done these calls, right? You can't expect a salesperson, especially a brand new salesperson, to have that level of intuition. So
Correct.
you have to kind of script it out and matrix it out so they understand it. And founders and presidents and CEOs that, just do this all day long, the number one mistake, they just can't translate that. And it's not fair to expect them to, because they just, at a certain point, it's muscle memory, right? It's like, I know I got to do this. There's 15 things you have to do before a photo shoot.
Right.
Best case scenario is you have all 15 of those on a checklist. But if not, these 15 things have to happen. And if they don't happen, there's going to be a problem 30 minutes in, and another problem in the editing room, and 4 more problems, when you go. So, it's like any job. You want to take it down to the bare minimum, to the bare bones, and build it back up. And that's what we're doing, as simple as possible. Who do you want to go after? Why do you want to go after them? How do you make their lives better? How do you eliminate their pain? How do you take care of them? And where are they? How do we get to them? And that's all sales is. It's really, if they know that they have a need for their service, right? Unless we're forging a new market, unless we're going after a brand new market where nobody's used us. And now we have to take those people from Coca-Cola, not to Pepsi, but to lattes. That's different, right? You may have to be Coke to Pepsi. And so you need to say, hey, you're already using a video production company. I respect that. Let me tell you a little bit about how we're different and why we do what we do, and how we specialize in what we do just for Mary, your ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
That will get you in the door to have a deeper conversation. They may not flip to you, but now you're there, right? And now they're there, and you've planted the seed. And when physician XYZ is pacing because they're fiddling with the camera, they're going to remember you. And they're never going to let that happen again. So,
staying top of mind, I think that was another big component for our industry, particularly as we run banner ads for people who hit our site. So even if they just randomly checked us out one time, they might see us on other websites. And like you had mentioned, if they're working with someone already and something messes up or something goes wrong, who's first one on their mind is the last thing they saw, whether it be a banner or a phone call or the work of someone else. So that's good. Good rule of thumb.
Yeah. So you retarget them. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. With cookies. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And does that work well for you?
I think it works phenomenally to, just like I was saying, keep people thinking about you. Basically, I have just side banners and top banners. So when they come on the site, they get a cookie, and then they go to their favorite websites, and they might just see the logo popping up everywhere. And it's just like they learn to trust the brand. So I'd say I get between 3 and 8 clicks a month from people who visited my website, who click on the ad, the banner ad, and actually go back to my website.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's just grabbing those people who might be doing, because what happens is if a client is searching for another company, they're going to be looking at multiple companies on Google, let's say. Yeah. Well, they're going to get maybe 2 that they really like and get quotes made from those 2 they really like. Well, maybe mine wasn't the one they really liked, but they go to their favorite website and all of a sudden they see me again. They're like, oh, I never finished getting those quotes, or, oh, we might as well get a quote from them. That's what's happened in the past. And that's why we continue to use those.
Do you do LinkedIn follows too? Retargeting?
I have not done that. No.
You may want to think about it for some of these ICPs, right? Facebook is the best place, right? Because they don't expect us to be following them on Facebook, and Google is pretty good. Be careful with LinkedIn though. It could get expensive, right? So just make sure that it's worth it. And that you have the budget set pretty low. So you don't get burnt.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing, this was a trick that I was taught. So an example would be in LinkedIn. Some times people tag themselves that they are attending an event, right? In Facebook, they do that too. And so then you retarget those people, especially if you want to be going after them. If you're going to have a presence like at that booth, or you're going to be speaking, right? Or you're going to be there, you tag them, and then you could almost say, I don't want them clicking, right? Because clicking costs money. I just want them seeing my logo, right? Or seeing my ad. So that way you could just kind of take them to the next level. So
yeah, they already feel like they know your company or your brand, or they recognize it.
It's just awareness. It's just awareness. And when you're calling on them, right? That's why leaving the message, I never understand why people don't leave messages. It's just marketing, right? It's just, love to be able to reach out to you. Saw you guys doing some great stuff. That's why we have those Google alerts, so we could be timely in our message. Hey, just saw that, phenomenal that you got a donation from XYZ, for your lung treatment center. It's phenomenal. We do a ton of work with other physicians or other hospitals like XYZ and 123 and 146.
Personable.
Yeah. You're just tying it in. And so they're like, okay, versus just a generic message.
Another example that I learned from another course was something along the lines of, if you know your ideal target audience and who they are and what they would be looking for and what could be beneficial for them, you could provide them with an article or a blog, or send them something that might resonate with them, so that they say, hey, like, saw this article, was thinking of you, as a follow-up, maybe if someone you met at a networking meeting or someone you're already talking to, and it just reestablishes that conversation. And get you reconnected without just saying, hey, how you been? You're actually was thinking about you, have this article that I saw, thought it might be helpful for you. Would love to reconnect with you next week, or whatever it might be.
100%. I think, especially on like LinkedIn messaging, right? Hey, sent the article. Hey, saw this. Hey, I thought you saw this. The reason why I always want to be, when you get to know them, they're going to confide in you, right? So, it might be, hey, know you're looking for your director job. Just saw this posting in case you haven't seen it, right? Just little things along the way. You get them their next role that they want, they're going to take you. They're going to use you. You're never going to leave, right? And so it's just being an expert and being a service and knowing them. That's what goes back to knowing as much as you possibly can about them, so you're as deep as possible. And it's just tickler, right? So the last thing we ever want to be is our salespeople to be is following up. Hey, I'm just following up. Hey, sent you, probably haven't seen it. I sent you an article that, 6 ways to make your next photo shoot, or your next video shoot the best possible. We wrote it, or we agree with 4 of these things. If you ever have anything, just let us know. And it's not the one hit that's going to break the granite. It's the 60th hit. And I want to be the 60th hit. All right. And I just read this article and I thought it was phenomenal, right? If you think about it, was it 3% of all wartime battles are won on the first offense? Only 3% over the course of time. The rest are all worn just by wearing down constantly. There's a phraseology for it. I can't remember it, but that's what we want to do.